All right, what is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another day of SaberSim's DFS office hours. It is Wednesday, October 18th of 2023 here. Looking ahead, we have MLB Showdown later this evening. We have a two-game hockey slate, and we have PGA teeing off on a Wednesday evening here. So very interesting start time with PGA with the Zozo Championship. But it should be a fun day of DFS for those of you who are new here. Welcome. My name is Andrew. I'm one of the coaches over here at SaberSims, a show where we go over how to use a SaberSim app, answer any and all DFS-related questions. You get your questions in one of three ways here. First off, send us an email, support@sabersim.com. Second way, post it live in the YouTube chat. Third way, post it in the office hours channel in our Discord server. If you're not in our Discord, want to get access to that channel, there is a link in the description of this video. You get access to our similar channels, individual sport channels, access to other members of the SaberSim team, a bunch of good reasons to be in the Discord. But with that said, we're going to get the show kicked off here in a minute. As always, want to remind you guys, if you guys are not signed up for our weekly max challenge, there is still time to enter and earn prizes here. It's a free promotion giveaway we do during the NFL season here. The link to this page is in the description of this video. You can use the screen, enter the challenge button to fill out our short form so we can send you awesome prizes here. And eligibility requirements down here at the bottom. Check them out. Get in on the action. But this is always a fun giveaway. And we have a ton of people participating, over 200 each and every week of the NFL season so far. So it's been great. Looking forward to more awesome weeks. But with that said, going to get SaberSim pulled up here. A couple questions here. So first one looks like came in from John. And John said, I'm fairly new to SaberSim and found the users portion referring to Contest Flashback here. Can you briefly explain again how to use this data to improve your lineups? I have attached a screenshot of the participant that had the most winnings and mine underneath. Okay, great question here. So if you're looking for how to use Contest Flashback, things to look for, Max Steinberg and I, Max is one of the partners at SaberSim, High Stakes Pro. We do a weekly show talking about NFL review. We do it usually on Mondays. That video came out yesterday. If you missed it, it's over here in the videos. You can see NFL review, studying Millie Maker trends through 6 weeks here. If you go to the playlists, you go to Coach's Corner, I would watch some of these videos. We've done one for every week of the NFL season so far. Check these out and see the things we're talking about. Listen to Max. He's super knowledgeable, been playing DFS a long time. Listening to him, listening to our back and forth. I try to ask Max questions and pick his brain so everybody can hear it. Listening to those conversations and what we are looking for, seeing it and understanding is going to help you the best. So I would check out these videos. It's going to give you a great starting point about where to get started with your own research. And then one other thing that I saw here, wanted to call out, we had another video drop today using custom ownership with Contest Sims. If you guys are aggregating ownership, different things like that, and are also using Contest Sims, is a great tutorial video. And just a video in general talking about how to use it, best ways to do that stuff in the app to get the accurate information that you're looking for. So I would check out that video if that's something that you're doing. All right, next question here from Neil. Neil said, for NBA, should we still expect a 3 to 5 minute delay for ownership to update after news breaks and a new sim is ran? I didn't think this was a huge issue in the past, but with Contest Sims being new for NBA this year, this seems like a potential major issue depending on how close to lock news hits. I'll preface this by sometimes, news hits so late that sometimes we can't even get sims out, right? Sometimes it's, I'm on the West Coast, so lock is like 4 o'clock. Sometimes it's like 3:58, and the Knicks release their lineup, and our sim takes about 1 to 2 minutes to run here, and even then, we can't even get that done in time, right? So sometimes you're gonna just find yourself in a situation where you're kind of just like shit out of luck is the term, right? But ultimately, we understand how important it is to have fast sims, have quick updating ownership and updating field lineups so you can run your contest sim and get your lineups in. So we're optimizing all of that on the back end. Right now, our team is like really hard at work preparing for NBA to start 6 days from today. So we're doing everything we can to make it as fast and time sensitive as possible there. So I do want to reassure you that we're doing everything we can to make this process as seamless as possible. But sometimes you're just going to end up between a rock and a hard place. Something that I always try to remember in that situation is that, hey, I am not the only one dealing with this information in this short of a time crunch. Everybody playing your contest is getting that information at the same time, usually from the same sources here. So everybody's kind of in a pinch. So don't think that you're at some huge disadvantage. If a situation like that arises, chances are everybody's having trouble accounting for that and trying to do everything they can as quick as possible. But great thing about our sims and our system here is that it's all automated. So once that news hits, we're able to automatically insert, players into or take players out of lineups, rerun the sims, and do that all very quickly here. So it's a very automated process. We try and make it as quick as possible. All right, question here from Gary. Gary said, for showdowns, is it better to have sim diversity at 10 and use the sim optimals metric as a part of your sorting method for lineups? Or would you say it's better to have sim diversity at 8 or 9, not get sim optimals, but have more sims to help find the better lineups and just use some sort of other sorting metric, maybe including Geomean? Okay, this is a really good question here. So let me get SaberSim pulled back up. So just in case you guys didn't know, so when you run a build on sim diversity 10, what we were doing is we were taking a single instance, a single simulation of a game from each game on the slate and playing it out one time and creating a slate simulation. So if you were playing NFL Showdown, which was the question here, so if I go to tomorrow's NFL Showdown between the Jaguars and the Saints here, you're going to see that the default sim diversity is 10. So we are plucking from our database one game simulation from the Jaguars and Saints, playing it out, and then building you the best possible lineup under the salary cap. I would stick with that option. And the reason I would stick with that option is because in NFL Showdown, you're more likely to need an optimal lineup to win. You're going to need the highest scoring lineup possible. So taking these game simulations that are played out play by play, you get that accurate game script, and then you get a lineup that has a simulation directly backing it. When you take groups of sims, players might do well on average, but you lose that true optimal nature of your lineup, right? You're getting an average of a number of simulations here. So I would stick with sim diversity 10 for showdowns here. I think it's much better. And then I think that it's okay to sort by saber score, right? So if you were to sort by saber score is one of our internal lineup sorting metrics here. So like if I run a build, I'm going to get some options with saber score. And then if I'm running contest sims, I'm going to get some options with contest sims. I've been experimenting myself here with like just using contest sims as a filter here. So like, let's say like I set up a default contest sim, right? I'm just going to remove that one. I was doing some testing earlier, and then just run this contest sim here. And then when I run it, I personally like using sim optimals for showdown. I think sim optimals is a very useful tool here, something nice to have. So something that I've been experimenting with is like, hey, I run my contest sim. I leave the single game sort on, right? Because it's taking into account sim optimals. And then I come in here and I filter by my contest sim. So then I do something like show lineups where ROI is greater than 0 here, just playing, positive sim ROI lineups. And then that's going to, filter down your pool like pretty well here. We got rid of about, 60-ish% of our pool here. And then now I'm left with these lineups. And then from these positive sim ROI lineups, I can do any last things that I want to do with other filters, with geometric mean, with salary, with lineup construction, with minimax exposures. But I'm using the contest sim. I'm just not sorting by it because I like the sim optimals metric in my single game saber score. But you can always mess around with custom metrics, right? You can create one. Maybe you want to put risk adjusted ROI and sim optimals into a metric and see what those lineups look like, right? So a lot of different ways you can go about it. I think I'm just being a little lazy and not experimenting with custom metrics. And so I'm just leaning on the single game saber score. But either way, I do think sim optimals is a great metric to take into account in your showdown lineups. But really good question. All right, next question here from Sammy. Sammy said, for NFL, is there a metric rule per position to be able to find a correlation to actual value in between projected value, salary adjusted versus ownership value, what the fields are expected to be. Thanks. Is it a great idea to make a group ownership rule, including wide receiver and defense under certain thresholds, or is it better to separate them by position? Is there a way to have a rule average by position? Thanks. Okay, so a lot here about like rules and ownership here. I don't love ownership rules for NFL Classic here. And the main reason that I don't like them is because ownership changes slate to slate, slate context change, salaries change, point projections change. So the way players fit into lineups is different slate to slate, right? So I think a lot of people, what they do is like, hey, I'm going to look at, 3 seasons of Millie Maker data, and oh, the winning lineup is like, X percentage of the time it's in this ownership range, right? And then people just say, oh, I'm just going to go and use that ownership range. I think that's like a pretty bad thing to do, like on average here. Just like following some like historic trend here when these slate dynamics and contexts are changing slate to slate. So like something that Max and I have noticed in our reviews here is that studying like Millie Makers, a lot people are getting different in like a lot of different positions here. I'd say that they're using 5+ players at like sub 10% ownership. When we look at some of the smaller field contests, a lot of and when I say a lot of people, I mean the highest sim ROI lineups, the highest sim ROI portfolios are using 5-6 players under 10% ownership. And those are grading out really well in the sims. And then for like some smaller field contests, like 30,000 maybe, we're seeing like, hey, lineups that are using like 2 to 4 players under 10% owned, or like grading out pretty well in the sims. And then even in your smallest field, like your high stakes millies, the contests that have a couple hundred entries are only getting different in like 1 to 2 spots. And like, it's going to change contest to contest. And then it's also going to change week to week. Sometimes we see skinny stacks do really well. Like, hey, this week, a bunch of QB plus ones did really well in the sims. And then the next week, hey, we're seeing a bunch of QB plus twos with a run back, QB plus threes, like super high correlated stacks. So like, that's kind of what we're talking about. And then something like I even heard Max say on the show is like, hey, I'm realizing that there is no one size fits all answer to carry week to week with you in NFL. So that's why like I'm being a little cautious with this question, just like giving you a value just to plug and play each and every week. I think that's like probably wrong. And I don't think that you need to worry so much about it. SaberSims sim diversity, SaberSims sorting metrics, and contest sims are going to help you to get to lineups that are different enough from the field. SaberSim is going to determine, hey, these lineups are different enough. You don't need to play the lowest owned lineups possible to have a winning lineup. And that's also going to change depending on your contest selection, right? So take it like slate by slate. This is a great reason why on the ultimate plan, you could build up to 10 different contest sims. So like if you come in here, or even if you go to contests, right? If I go to contests and then I go to all contests, I can right click on these contests, or even the ones in my CSV if I have one loaded, and I can load 10 of these into a build. And then that just gives you so much optionality, and it takes into account, the percent of first, the cash line, the contest size, taking into account, oh, is this payout structure top heavy? Oh, is this payout structure flat, right? Different lineups are going to grade out differently in those sims. And then you could account for all those small nuances with the contest sim. So that's why I think the contest sim is super important. People ask me, difference between contest sim versus regular Saber score. I'd say Saber score is like the 80-20, but the contest sim is like the whole enchilada, right? You get to be as specific as possible for as many contests as you're playing, right? So that's the way I would look at it. All right, question here from Timmy. Timmy said, I've heard a lot about Geomean. Is there a good video on that and how to use it? If not, can you go over it? Thanks. Great question. So if you go to the top right corner here, you go to the drop-down menu, you go to help, and then this is our support library here. If you scroll down to frequently asked questions, go to view more. It's going to take you to this page where you can search for articles, and then just type in geometric mean here. And I have this very short 4-minute tutorial here talking about an example between sum ownership, product ownership, geometric mean, how to apply it on the app on all subscription tiers, and how to get the most out of it on rules, filtering, and what to look for, right? So check out this video. It walks you through it. It's a great video here, and I will actually just send this to you as well as answer your question here, but at least you have a direct link. You don't have to go and find it here. So I'm gonna shoot that over to you, but great question. I see Will with the hard-hitting questions here. I'm going to skip Will's question. Thank you so much for that one, Will. Really appreciate you. All right. Next question. When building custom fields and using match exposure to ownership, many times the builder cannot get to 5,000 lineups. Any best practices for troubleshooting when this happens? I've tried raising the threshold above and below, and that doesn't always do the trick. Okay, so great question here. I mentioned this earlier in the show, but I'm going to mention it again. This video just dropped earlier this morning here, using custom ownership with contest sims. So I will send you a link to this video. It is a new video. And, this is exactly why we have a lot of people asking this question here. And so we wanted to do a video specifically talking about it. So check out that video, not too long, only 5 minutes here, and see. I think a lot of times the builder gets very close, and it's like within a percentage of what you requested, right? So sometimes it comes down to, hey, 5 divided by 150 is like 0.1% lower than the calculated 15% of the player's ownership. And sometimes the math just doesn't work out that way, but the builder usually gets fairly close there. So I would check out that video, check out the tips mentioned there, and then try to give those a shot. But really good question. All right. We're all caught up with questions in the office hours channel. I'm not seeing any questions in the YouTube chat here today. So appreciate you guys tuning in to the show. As always, we will be right back here tomorrow, 2 p.m. Eastern, for our next show. Until then, if you guys are building lineups throughout the day, question pops in your head, drop it in the office hours channel, drop it in the upcoming stream link over on the YouTube page. That gets us a steady queue of questions to get started with at the beginning of our next show. But until then, take care. Good luck in your contests. I will see you all. Thanks. Bye.